Hi, this is tkviper, and today I'm going to give you a hands-on review of the new iPad Air, which came out today, November 1st in Japan, one day before the US release. We're going to test it, compare it to the iPad mini, and hopefully give you a better understanding of the power inside this thing. As you can see here, it looks like iPad mini's bigger twin brother, and that's exactly what Apple did. They copied the design from the iPad mini and brought it over to the iPad Air. The side bezels are thinner, but still thicker than the ones on the iPad mini. From this angle, you can see that the iPad Air is slightly thicker than the iPad mini. It measures at 7.5 millimeters, 0.29 inch, compared to the 7.2 millimeter and 0.28 inch of the iPad mini. But the iPad mini 2 coming later this month will have the same thickness as the iPad Air. And that's because it's going to need a bigger battery to power the new Retina display. Coming from the iPad 4, you'll definitely feel the difference. The iPad 4 is 9.4 millimeters or 0.37 inch. Next, we're going to take a look at the displays on these two devices. They are both LED backlit IPS LCD displays. But of course, the iPad Air has the Retina display at a pixel density of 264 ppi versus the 163 ppi of the iPad mini. Zooming in, you can see the pixels around the text on the iPad mini, whereas on the iPad Air, you can't detect them. Now let's talk about the weight, which Apple has been bragging about. The iPad mini is only 0.68 pounds, and the iPad Air is 1 pound. And holding it by the corner here, it feels very safe. It doesn't feel like it's going to snap in half, and that's not true with the iPad 4. So if you just slap on a case and a smart cover on the iPad mini, that's how much the iPad Air weighs, and that's pretty impressive. And unfortunately for the iPad mini 2, it's going to weigh a bit heavier at 0.73 pounds due to the larger battery. And comparing it to the iPad 4, we are trimming down 28% in weight, and that's a big difference. The iPad 4 is 1.44 pounds. This one, 1 pound. You're going to feel a big difference when you're holding it with one hand. So if you're one of those people who bought the iPad mini last year because you dreaded the weight of the iPad 4, this year you no longer have that dilemma. This year, the deciding factor is the screen size, because everything else is pretty much the same. If you want something bigger for watching movies, for surfing the web, or for doing more work, then definitely the iPad Air is for you. If you want something more portable that can fit inside your pockets of your cargo pants or a smaller bag, then wait for the iPad mini 2. And now let's take a closer look at all the ports and buttons on this thing. On the bottom we have two grills for the stereo speakers and the lightning port in between. On the right side we have the lock switch for either the volume or the rotation lock depending on your settings, and the volume buttons, which are separate this time. On the top we have the sleep and wake button or the power button. On the left side, nothing, and this is where the smart cover attaches to the iPad Air via magnets. On the back here we have the 5 megapixel HD camera, just like the ones on the iPad 4, and we have dual mics, so for better sound capturing. And it just says iPad here, it doesn't say iPad Air. So more or less, it feels and looks like the iPad mini. And now onto the UI. It's very fluid, very fast as expected because iOS is optimized for the hardware inside. And to show off the A7 chip inside this device, we're going to play a game. It's a soccer game. It's a goal-specific soccer game. You pick a goal and you try to accomplish it. And notice how fast it loads. It's just screamingly fast. And this is how you play. You just flick it. And I missed it, and it took a few more tries until I passed it. And you get to see a replay in different angles. And on to the next task. And look at that speed. It's amazing. Everything loads faster because of the 64-bit CPU with more registers and bigger cache inside. It's just going to feel like an extremely fast tablet. And this one took about 20 or 30 tries. And goal. And you can see in multiple angles and It's pretty fun to watch. And let's also check out the Maps app. This takes a lot of CPU power to render the whole city of New York. And as you can see, the network speed is slowing us down. So it's very smooth. You can zoom in, zoom out, and rotate the whole screen. It moves very fast. Let's rotate it. So definitely no problem there. Now let's look at the camera, which is the same one found on the iPad 4 and iPad mini. It takes 1080p videos up to 30 frames per second, and it's 5 megapixel. Let's take some pictures. It has a burst mode. Just leave your thumb on the button and it'll take multiple shots. But unlike the iPhone 5S, it does not combine them into one folder and chooses the best one for you. It doesn't have a slow motion camera, and it doesn't have the panel mode. But for a tablet, it's actually quite decent. It's probably the best camera on a tablet. So here we see all the photos listed. You're gonna have to go through all of them and choose the best one yourself. But look at that, looks pretty good. So no changes there. However, the front-facing camera has been improved to have bigger sensors, so more light can go in. It's gonna work better in low light situations. But with that said, it is still meant to be a FaceTime camera, so it's not great. You can see a lot of noise, even in this well-lit room. Alright, and now let's move on to another app to show off the power of the CPU. The Photo Booth app, which processes 9 different filters on your face, and it's doing all this in real time. And as you can see, it's very quick, very smooth, and of course it is because it also works on the iPad 4 and iPad mini. And now I'm going to do a comparison test between the iPad mini and the iPad Air's speakers. So I'm going to play a few seconds of the same song and the same section of that song, first on the iPad mini. And now onto the iPad Air. And it sounds much better, deeper bass, just a greater clarity of sound from the iPad Air. Likewise, we're going to try it on this song on GarageBand. And now on the iPad Air. Again, much richer sounds from the iPad Air. And that's expected because you have a bigger body to embed bigger speakers. And now we're going to play the electric guitar. And now to the iPad Air. So consistently, the iPad Air's speakers sound a lot better. The last test is on the ringtones. We're going to listen to the Silk ringtone, first on the iPad mini. And now on the iPad Air. So overall, better sounds. Now the next 2 clips will show off the power of the A7 chip as opposed to the A5 chip inside the iPad mini. We're going to render this 1080p video. And here we go. It's a 1 minute and 5 second video that we're rendering. And as you can see, the iPad Air is already kind of speeding up, 25% done, whereas the iPad mini is still around 1 or 2% done. And within I think 20 something seconds. It's already done rendering, and a few more seconds to export and save it into camera roll, and then we're done. 40 seconds to export. As for the iPad mini, it's going to take a while, so we're just going to fast forward. So a minute and 25 seconds to render and a minute and 33 seconds to export. So definitely 2 to 4 times faster than the A5 chip. And now let's enjoy our clip. So if you're into movies and watching things on the iPad, definitely get the iPad Air for the bigger screen and also brighter colors. Now this clip shows that using 4 fingers, it tracks very well on the iPad Air, whereas on the iPad mini you can see that those dots are kind of flickering, having a hard time to follow my fingers. So that shows you the power of the A7 chip on the iPad Air. And that's it for today. I thank you for watching this video. Please rate, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends about my 2 channels, tkviper and tkviper tech, and come visit me at tkviper.com. I'll catch you guys next time.